If you've ever seen the movie Oppenheimer, that talks about how much of a revolution discovering the atom was to the scientific space and discovering the world of quantum mechanics. And everyone has all of these ideas, all of these things that they can do. Everyone's trying things, building things, testing their theories in that space. Feels very similar with AI, where after the advent of LLMs, there's also this huge rush to find best practices to improve the LLMs, to figure out what works in the AI space.
Totally. That is, there's a lot of theory regarding data patterns, how we do test-driven development, domain-driven development, the CI, but everything is reinvented again for the AI, right? How you do test-driven development for AI, how you run CI in a meaningful way. We don't want to just forget everything we invented before, but everything worth a second take. To look at how to leverage some of the creativeness, flexible part of the AI, but try to find the right balance.
I'd like to tackle that from the stance of like, how does a standard software engineer differ from a forward deployed engineer? But our main driving metric is ensuring that the customers that we're working with are successful. We want this AI agent deployment to be successful for them. And the reason why FDEs are so important in this AI space is that, as we've said, best practices are changing every single day. You need someone with deep expertise in the AI field that your customer might not necessarily have. And so you want to guide them. That in FDE, it's really important to guide the customer towards the best possible outcome to them. Because, sometimes our customers don't know exactly what that looks like. And so it's up to us to educate them, to guide them, and to ensure them that we're following the best practices and their deployment is going to be a success.
You and I are so heavy user of cloud code. So cloud is certainly awesome. The model, the agentic loop, the SDK is great. Some people considering using the cloud code SDK to build an agent. But you can imagine there's a huge gap for a cloud code-based AI agent vs agent you can use for call center, right? I guess the voice is certainly one part. Cloud code don't handle voice, and they are not fast enough, right? You don't want every single ask will be answered like 10 or 20 seconds later. You don't want the agent to generate the code or even ask the user, hey, should I apply this logic, apply that logic? Welcome to the new episode of Forward Deployed Caffeine, and I'm in the process of inviting more people in this space, AI agents for deployment, and there'll be more guests to come to the show. In the meanwhile, I guess you don't have to listen to me, and you can. I'm going to invite my team member to join the show, and we just do a very easy A to Z, and Anthony happened to be the first. Anthony, maybe you can do some quick intro and try to impress the audience.
Yeah, I'm a forward deployed engineer here at Cresta. I've been here for 4 months today. Today is my fourth, officially 4 months in. I was the second full-time FTE hired. Renji was the first, and Jove, you were a week before me. And so really, really excited to dive in here. Before I was working on applications for thinking models in agentic AI in the biology lab sciences space. But the transition to Cresta has been amazing because, I don't know, I really like working with customers. I like how customer facing our product ends up being, interact with, our the AI agents that we build interact with, thousands of customers every day in production. And so it's amazing to work on a product and actually see real world impact and benefit to the customers that we're serving. So, yeah,
Nice. And I again, FDE has been there for a long time. Some of us already know the story, but it's very hard to be the next or the second parentier, right? So we can discuss that a little bit. That, but I'm not quite sure that is when you apply the position at Cresta within the FDE opening. Do you have any special like expectation, or after you join for a few weeks, months, do you
y-
see any surprise, anything meet your kind of expectation? Something is like quite different, but in a maybe some good ways, some bad ways. Yeah, feel free to.
definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, when I joined, when I was looking for a position, at my previous role, I was one of two developers who were doing the entire stack of it was an augmented reality plus AI application. And so I built the platform for it that was web based. I built the web client, the AR client, and then the AI tools for that. But it was just me and one other developer who was a really close friend from college, and then leading us was my boss is very, very well regarded, or he was very well regarded in the biology space. And while that was great, I was really looking to learn from more experienced developers to get in a space where it's more fast moving, where we've got, a lot of people with great experience, great engineers. So I was really excited to looking for an opportunity like that. And when I arrived at Cresta, I wasn't exactly sure what to expect because this was one of my first roles where I'm working with way more people than I normally would every day. Previously, I was somewhat siloed. Like I would work with my one other developer. We would work on things together. We would, talk throughout the day. We'd deliver to our boss like at the end of the week.
It feels like the game It Takes Two.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It was exactly like that, where it was just the two of us working on things. And that was a great development life cycle. We set our own deadlines. We did all the work. There's no one that we're waiting on. We just, if we need to build a feature, if we need to improve the product, we just go and do it, full stack front to back. So wherever we were needed to be, we were making improvements there. But joining Cresta has been really, really amazing. Something that surprised me so much in my first month was just how fast the team moves at Cresta. But this breakneck pace that Cresta moves at, it's not in the traditional tech sense. Like when people hear like moving really quickly, there's a lot of work involved, they usually equate that to a stressful environment. And Cresta is not that at all. I've had such a great experience working with all the engineers, and everyone is just so excited to work at this edge of AI technology and make improvements not only to our product, but improvements to the AI space overall. AI is such a new field. Something I like to equate it to is when in if you've ever seen the movie Oppenheimer, that talks about how much of a revolution discovering the atom was to the scientific space and discovering the world of quantum mechanics. And everyone has all of these ideas, all of these things that they can do. Everyone's trying things, building things, testing their theories in that space. And there's just a world that they've uncovered with quantum mechanics. And it feels very similar with AI, where after the advent of LLMs, there's also this huge rush to find best practices to improve the LLMs, to figure out what works in the AI space. And I just love the innovation that has come with this field. I think that it's a great example, or a great way to frame it is that there's no wrong ideas, in the sense of everyone is able to contribute to the field in a meaningful way. Whereas nowadays, like if you compare physics, if I wanted to contribute to the field of physics, I'd need to go to school for like 12 years and then like specialize on a really specific field. And then maybe if I'm lucky, I'll make a meaningful contribution to that field. But here, it's not like there's low hanging fruit per se, but there's just so much room for innovation, growth, figuring out what works well, why it works well. It's just a really exciting space to be in.
Yeah, yeah, totally. That is, there's a lot of theory regarding data patterns, how we do test-driven development, domain-driven development, the CI, but everything is reinvented again for the AI, right? How you
Yeah,
do test-driven development for AI, how you run CI in a meaningful way, how to design in a whether you should design DSL, domain-specific language, or anything like that. So we don't want to just forget all everything we invented before, but everything worth a second take to look at
exactly.
how to leverage some of the creativeness, flexible part of the AI, but try to find the right balance.
Exactly. And especially the field of prompt engineering is super interesting because there's so much to learn there about, what is an effective way to prompt a model? How do you get desired outcomes? And Cresta is a great place to build on these practices because by nature, our product is exposed to thousands of callers, thousands of customers. And so we need to build resilient AI agents, resilient prompts that are ready to handle any scenario that a customer might be calling in about and handle it appropriately for not only for ourselves but for the brand as well, for our business, making sure that we're handling all of these customers in a positive way. And yeah.
Cool. And yeah, again, I totally get that is people who are watch this video or some of the clips. Uh, yeah, we don't want to force you to like look at Cresta or join us, but maybe some of you watch this video, try to understand better about the FDE role because it's so new or it's can have different version in different org. So yeah, tell me more about what's your understanding about the FDE here at Cresta. I mean, anything you feel very excited? Which part there's a certain the process a little bit too light. There's room to improve. Anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, like I'd like to tackle that from the stance of like, how does a standard software engineer differ from a forward deployed engineer? Where a standard software engineer, you're working on the core product, you're working on, optimizing for scale, for generalization, you've got limited client interaction. You usually have a deep specialization in a single field like backend, front end, infra, something like that. And success is really driven by how the product is doing. But compared to an FDE, we work on client specific implementations. So instead of going for generalization, we're actually going for specificity. We're identifying patterns among those client deployments, those customer deployments that we can then bring back to the platform and reuse in a meaningful way. And so we act as that bridge between the customer and our product team and those standard software engineers. And success is driven not by necessarily by the product success. Of course, the product success is really important to us, but our main driving metric is ensuring that the customers that we're working with are successful. We want this AI agent deployment to be successful for them. And the reason why FDEs are so important in this AI space is that, as we've said, best practices are changing every single day. You need someone with deep expertise in the AI field not that your customer might not necessarily have. And so you want to guide them that in FTE, it's really important to guide the customer towards the best possible outcome to them. Because, sometimes our customers don't know exactly what that looks like. And so it's up to us to educate them, to guide them, and to ensure them that we're following the best practices and their deployment is going to be a success.
Yeah, cool. And I guess you already work with different clients. Some of the client is quite tech savvy. Some is
Yeah.
more rely on us to do whatever business and technical implementation. But still, there will be some question asked that is whether they should build or buy, and if there's an organization still already have a large enterprise engineer team and they are very hands-on, they already have access to many different models. What do you think? Why FDE can do a better job to build an AI agent as an outsider? Vs they've been there for a while, they're familiar with the business and API. Why they cannot just build it by themselves?
Well, one thing, especially in our vertical, which is, call center interaction via chat, SMS, voice, especially around voice, is customers would have to build their own. AI agents are not just a prompt and the tools that it has access to. In the call center space, you've got to worry about low latency. You need to worry about ASR and turn detection. How do we know when a customer stopped speaking? How do we know to trigger the next AI agent response? And this would require customers to build all of that framework out themselves, which is quite a large undertaking. And, here at Cresta, we've been working on this space for years and years now. And we have that expertise. We have the best framework for building turn detection, and we're at the front line of the technology and paying attention to that. And so not only would customers have to build that initially, but they'd also have to have a team dedicated to keeping up with the latest practices, ensuring that new technologies are folded into their product as time goes on. And that's I guess where our place stands in is that's what we're taking responsibility for, ensuring that, the best practices are being used, the latest models, our turn detection is always being iterated on, silence detection, everything like that. There's so much to think about that I think a lot of customers don't realize the breadth of work that needs to be done to enable these successful deployments. Not only that, but also in terms of the testing side of things, having successful testing frameworks, having harnesses to test these AI agents at scale and to test it against thousands of conversations before it hits live traffic so that we can ensure and validate that this AI agent is going to be performant. And that's a huge undertaking for a customer to have, like to build a framework like that would be 30, 40 engineers for at least a year to do that kind of work. And so, yeah, I guess that's kind of our spot in the industry is that we handle these best practices. We handle, keeping our platform up to date with the latest things. And so the customer can focus on their bread and butter. They can focus on the customer interactions and ensuring that customers are successful.
Yeah, totally. Especially on the test part. I mean, building agent for the happy path is not that hard, right? So but you don't want to every time you change it, you manually test, send some text message, say something by yourself, right? You want to test at the scale, right? Let's simulate a certain scenario and test for 100 times, 1,000 times. Try different model, try different word in the prompt, right? Everything should be tested in a large scale, and it's not that ready for many of the open source or commercial agent SDK to do that, right? I mean, Anthony, you and I are so heavy user of cloud code. So cloud is certainly awesome. The model, the agentic loop, the SDK is great. Some people considering using the cloud code SDK to build an agent, but you can imagine there's a huge gap for cloud code based AI agent vs agent you can use for call center, right? I guess the
Yeah.
voice is certainly one part. Cloud code don't handle voice, and they are not fast enough, right? You don't want every single ask will be answered like 10 or 20 seconds later. You don't want the agent to generate the code and run random stuff, or even ask the user, hey, should I apply this logic, apply that logic? I mean, the AI agent should know exactly what to talk to the callers, right? So there's a lot of gap. Also, the test part. So I guess that's a part that is people should realize and appreciate. Building an AI agent for the enterprise, especially for the voice, is a whole new world. It's very challenging. It's very interesting for sure, but it's not that easy as it looks like.
Exactly, exactly. It's a whole new world, and I've been on the ground with LLM since day one, since the transformer model was released. And I remember the first day I saw ChatGPT come out, my coworker and I at my old role were trying it out for some little tasks, and it was horrible at coding. It would make a bunch of mistakes, and wasn't very effective at what it was doing. But over time, we would continuously check back on those models and seeing the improvement, and suddenly, okay, it can do small things for us. And as you grow, because we grew with the AI technology evolving, we're also growing with the best practices as well. We know what works, what doesn't work. um,
Nice. Actually, a little bit. That is, people might be wondering, the life of FDE. That is, many people right now either as a backend or front end or full stack or DevOps, SRE, and they don't really have many friends. They can ask, hey, how's the day looks like? Any fun story? Any sad story? Can you share some of that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, day to day, what my day will look like is, a lot of client interaction, a lot of customer interactions. We'll be building an agent and I'll be asking questions to the customer of how they want it to respond to certain scenarios, how it should handle certain scenarios. We've had some great successes of the thing that's super nice about being an FDE is that your job is embedded in the client success and the customer success. And as a result, you form this great relationship with the client because it matters as much to you as it does to them that they're successful. And because of that, you really start to care about what matters for these clients and what concerns their business is concerned about, and ensuring that the AI agents that you're building align to that practice. One like the first customer deployment I was on was for like a dental consult company. And I worked really intimately with them for weeks building this agent. And at the end, when we launched it finally to traffic, we got this great feedback from the customer that was like, I, you know, I can't believe you guys said, you fully broke down what the agent was doing, why it was responding these ways, and I'm extremely quick to fix any issues that appear in the customer, in the AI agent, because I care about the performance of the AI agent. I remember the first day that I released an AI agent to production traffic, I was like so nervous, biting my nails, just, hoping that all of these customers that I'm handling are going to be, have their goals met, have, the AI agent is going to be able to address their needs. And fortunately, everything went really, really smoothly, especially given that we have such a robust testing framework. I was extremely confident in the performance and the ability of the agent at that time. That kind of seeing your customer succeed and seeing how happy the clients are at the end of the day, handling these issues, being able to meet the customer's goals, the caller's goals is, I think that's like my favorite part of my day is seeing, successful and positive outcomes. And then also on the other side of things, it's, as we've said, you're building at the front of the bleeding edge of AI agent development. And because of that, you get to see a lot of, there's, like I said, there's a lot of ideas in the space. And it's vitally important for me to take all of this feedback back, all of this development back, identify patterns, and bring it back to the platform. So every customer deployment gets faster and faster and faster and faster. It's part of our job to make our job easier. That's something that is, I think, really important to an FDE role, is that I'm always trying to make my job easier and make my job faster so I can take on more customers and we can deploy more successful agents.
Yeah, well said. But I guess it's both make our life easier and then make our life harder because we need to move
Yes.
on harder problem to solve, right? Those easy ones will be solved by either AI or our template, our system, or some other team members, right? So it will be great. Our solution engineer, our PM can do some of the work, right? So now we can only focus on those hard problems. So, and also,
Exactly.
yeah, I guess because I joined maybe 1 week before you, and I guess that dental client is also almost my first project, and I can see how amazing the system is, right? Because when we launch for either A/B test or certain percentages of the traffic, before that we already simulate our test in quite a massive way, so we don't want to like just ship and good luck, right? We already test
Yes.
using different a static conversation, turn by turn, multi-turn, LM as judge. Even we have our own model. We can talk about it later on. But, yeah, so there's always some issues, but we do have the chance for people to give feedback or tag, hey, this is not, it's one of the 0.2%, which is not great, but we want to make sure we do all the tests we can do before the launch, but also we open for the real-time monitoring, dashboard, alerts. And I guess one thing I want to mention that is there's always some surprises, right? Or in different domains, for example, we're talking about dental. Some people already lost their teeth when they make a phone call, right? I can imagine that voice is not as clear as normal person. Do
Yeah.
you want to say more about that? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so I think diving deep into that sort of client deployment, something that was really unique about that client compared to some of the other clients that we've handled is empathy was a core requirement for them. Because in the dental industry, and this is something that I learned a lot more about working with this customer, there's a lot of anxiety in the dental industry. People are scared to go to the dentist, especially, and there's a negative correlation between your chances going to the dentist and the worse your teeth become. And so it's really important that you're handling these vulnerable callers in a way that makes them feel heard and seen, and that they're going to get the care that they get. And that, I think, was such an interesting project for me to work on, because I think I was uniquely positioned to be really concerned about having an empathetic sounding agent, an agent that, now obviously empathy is a kind of a hot topic in AI agents, because some people think, okay, well, how can an AI agent be empathetic? And perhaps sympathetic is a better term, because an AI is not human. How can it relate to the customer's
Yeah, we're
experiences?
joking that is, don't, sorry to hear that. I've been there before. Come on, you are
Yeah,
AI.
yeah,
You've never
yeah.
been there before.
Exactly, exactly. So it's about designing responses that don't be like, "Hey, I've been there before," because obviously you haven't as an AI agent. But it's about making customers, feel heard. I remember I was monitoring calls during that launch, and I saw this particularly tough call, and I think the person did not know that they were speaking to an AI. Now, granted, we give a disclaimer right when you enter the call, "Hey, this is your virtual smile assistant," right? This is an AI agent. But because of how low latency our platform is, because of how empathetic we design this agent and how responsive it is, I think the person just thought they were interacting with any normal human. They really felt heard by the end. I see it at the end of so many calls, "Hey, thank you so much for your help." One particular one that was really funny was, at some point in the call flow, you need to start collecting some information to get them scheduled. And the agent said, "Hey, is it okay if we go ahead and proceed with booking and I collect some of your information?" And the caller said, "I could tell you anything." Yeah. Something else I wanted to touch on was, as you were saying about that, we start with the low-hanging fruit so that we can, tackle these more complex problems. That's another thing that, FDEs are uniquely positioned to handle, is that when you start to clear out all the low-hanging fruit, all of the easy automations, your platform starts to snowball in complexity, and not in a bad way. You start to be able to, tackle problems that our customers might just initially be tackling this low hanging fruit. We've already taken care of that. We're already on to the next thing, and how we can improve these agents. And so you snowball in how complex of problems you can handle and which complex problems you can solve. And so as we solve more and more of this problem, make AI agents more and more adaptable, we make our frameworks more reusable for other clients, we get to tackle more complex deployments and have our AI agents handle more complex workflows. And it's a really exciting part about working here is getting to those complex problems, because I think it's a pleasure to work on, really interesting stuff. And so I'm really happy to be working on things like that.
Yeah, I can imagine one of the interesting things you are working on these days. I guess this is not that sensitive or confidential. That is, you work on some SFT to better simulate the callers, right? I guess we can publicly discuss this in a podcast, because we do have a very good technology at Cresta. We have awesome data. That's also very key, because we in that space for so long time. Even before we sell this AI agent, customer trust us for a long time to monitor their phone call between the human agent and their real callers. And because we have all those cloud certificates or compliance, so we can safely, securely save all the informations, and those information can help us to better figure out what's the pattern, what's the anti-pattern, and also we have strong distribution, right? So the technology, the data, the distribution, we are very proud of that. So with that, we have this idea. It's not a new idea. I guess everyone can think, oh, maybe we can use the data in the past to train a model, so that this model compared to a public model such as from OpenAI or Anthropic can better simulate our customer in particular profile. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, so simulated visitors are a huge aspect of testing AI agents, ensuring that we can adapt to the caller population. And you're right, because we are uniquely positioned we have an agent assist product that humans use every day. We also, we ingest these customer conversations and run insights on them. We're also able to use that data to make our simulated visitors much more realistic and accurate to the actual caller population. Because if you just throw an LLM with with a prompt like, hey, you're a customer and you're angry and you want to book a dental consult, but you're really concerned about cost, it does not sound like a real person would respond. It
It's
sounds
just
like
too generic.
it's
So
it's
no
it's
matter
so generic and it's so verbose, and it's like if you prompt it like, "Hey, you're angry," it's like angry in every single response. It's just it doesn't sound like a real person. And so something that I've worked on is fine tuning some models, some smaller open source models to act as that simulated visitor, grounded in the real conversations that we see and that we ingest, so that this simulated visitor is tuned specifically to the customer's population, specifically to the kinds of questions, the concerns, and the behaviors of a customer. So it's a really exciting space to be in, and something that we're still working on, because I think while you can simulate this in like a text to text, the more exciting problem that I'm really excited to tackle is the voice simulation of things, because once you go to voice, there's even more issues that you need to start accounting for. Like, what if a caller interrupts your agent immediately? How do you handle that? Sometimes callers might not be able to hear your agent, or sometimes, as you said, callers might be missing all of their teeth and they're not sounding clear. And so, how can you accurately simulate that so that you know, that when this hits a real population, that it's going to respond well? And something else on that topic as well, I think that's really interesting, is the transition between interacting with humans and AI. As I've seen in my customer deployments, you can model your AI agent to be as close as possible to the real human agents as well. But the real concern is understanding that, when customers call in and they hear an AI, they're going to respond differently than, what when they would when they'd hear a human as well. And so there's a lot of patterns that we're now seeing and adapting for, so that we're ready for that behavior. Some people are very disrespectful to AI, some people are very respectful to AI. It's such a mix. And it's a problem that we're uniquely positioned to be ready for, right? If you were a call center, a company like this, and building your own AI agent, that's also something you need to consider, is that your population is going to react completely differently to an AI than it will to a human. And also something else I wanted to touch on there was something that I really, really, really respect and love about Cresta compared to maybe some of our competitors, is that we're very interested in human and AI agent in unison with each other. We want humans to be in the loop. I go to these customers, to their top call center leader, that their top agents, and AI is a long way of replacing those agents. They're really good at talking with customers, at solving their intricate problems. And what our AI agents are doing is we're taking so much of that workload off of them, so they can focus on being even more present for the customer. They don't have to do the repetitive things. And there's a really good unison and synergy between the human agents and the AI agents, so that, we can take more repetitive, repeatable, less interesting work off their plate and get them to tackle the problems that they'll have really good impact on. Yeah.
yeah, I can imagine if there's a phone number for you to report, hey, I lost my credit card and please send me a new card. This is address, and you have a human being take the phone call and spell the address, search for address, and issue the date. It's doable, but so boring, right? No one wants to do this like 100 times a day. And
Exactly.
so I guess what we are trying to do, and I'm glad some other company might have the similar vision, that is we want to unify human and AI, so that we almost provide a way for the human agent to be almost like promoted, right? So in the past, they just handle the phone call by themselves. Now there's a bunch of AI agents to do those repetitive efforts, the easy ones. And for if some customer have extra ask, or they are a little bit upset, and they can always the AI agent can transfer to the human agent, or we have also some products AOC, that is you can even have the AI agent to raise a hand, so that there's a bunch of other human as a supervisor can see the signal and whisper to it, yeah, you can do this, you cannot do this. So every more like first line human agent is immediately upgraded to a supervisor or manager of agents. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I think none of us want to live in a world where AI is doing everything, where I'm never interacting with a human because there are some hard conversations that you can really only have person to person. But as you were saying, right, if I lose my credit card, I don't care if it's a human or an AI at the end. I just want to get my credit card replaced at the end of the day compared to, more complex issues that humans are uniquely positioned to empathize with, to handle. And that's also really important to the customer experience where, you know, you have these repeatable workflows. I think customers are much more understanding if an AI is handling that. But then they want that human touch if their issue is really big, if they're really frustrated, really concerned, they're going to get frustrated at the AI agent. And it's unique, that's where the human agents can come in and really solve those issues and not only make the caller successful and also have them feel like they've got special attention to them, that these agents are really concerned about them. Hey, I heard this is a really complex issue. Like, I'm going to take care of this for you. Uh, yeah, so it's a really exciting space to be in, and I love the augmentation of humans with AI. I think that's really the way that the future is going towards.
Yeah, I guess it's applied to other space such as education, right? So for those very basic stuff, the AI can teach the kids very well, right? But we still need a great teacher to inspire you, right? To challenge you, right? To mentor you, to care for you. So we can find a better word to best leverage AI, do some work for us, but we also needed to, just like FDE, that we needed to work on more high level challenging part. Everyone in whatever career should be doing more high value things, which AI cannot easily do, but you can offload some of the boring part to AI, right?
Exactly, exactly, and that's actually like some personally a topic that I'm very interested in is educational impact, like on the side in my personal life, the educational impact of AI, because as you said, right, you need a great teacher to inspire these students, but then it's unique. AI is uniquely positioned to act as that tutor that is adaptable and personalizable to every student. And everyone learns a little bit differently, and I would have loved in high school if when I was like working on a paper at like 11 p.m. at night and I had a question, for me to be able to ask an assistant, like, hey, like, what does this mean again, what are we talking about here, rather than like emailing my teacher at like 11:30 at night and then like hoping they'll respond or something like that. um
I know
yeah.
in some country it's even illegal to contact your colleagues like after 5 p.m. or in the weekend.
That's the other thing that I think AI is really exciting to work with these repeatable workflows. As we said, we can know so much about the customer and the caller coming into this interaction that I've spoken a lot about how the human touch is really important, but even when you're interacting with AI, it's personalized just for you. It can know who you are. It can, the issues that you're facing just like that. And some of our more interesting deployments really push the limit of what that looks like. Like for Brinks is one of the coolest and most interesting AI agent. It's really a great showcase of what the future of this looks like, where someone's calling in and this AI agent has access to all the cameras in their, all the security devices in their home and can say, hey, it looks like this one is, seeing some issues. Can you unplug it or plug it back in? It looks like this cameras has intermittent connectivity, things like that, where it's really marrying, where a human dealing with these like low level issues would have to go like look up the system, review all the cameras. You can imagine for someone with like a big home, they might have like hundreds of security devices. And so the AI agent can really quickly process, handle this, and create this personalized experience and ultimately address the customer's problem as quick as possible.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, again, when we're talking about training special model, we always take those privacy or those data very carefully, right? So making sure that is, hey, if we think this particular customer or logo have a certain pattern, we can leverage their conversation and we can simulate a model using SFT to fit that kind of a scenario. But again, we would be very careful not to like create access data in different customer side because that's our a guarantee because we work on the enterprise space. Everything should be very carefully managed. But again, we see the value to, yeah, we try to avoid people have to manually dig into the conversation. And then all the AI can just go over everything and figure out some of the patterns and even fine tune a model.
That's something that, equally frustrates me at times, but also really impresses me, and also ultimately is a great thing, is how much Crest is concerned about security. I think we have some of the highest security certificates in the Valley alongside Anthropic, and that lends a lot of credit to us. And we take that extremely seriously. When we're, training these models to act as the simulated visitors, they will never touch other customer profiles. They'll never leak personal information because we've already thought about those problems and solved them especially in terms of PII, PHI, all of these things. And that's, lending further credit to these are things that you have to think about when you're deploying an AI agent, data risk, data security. And so our customers can feel really confident that, Cresta is going to handle this really well, right? Something that I think we both ran into is that some customers are US only based, and so we have to work on them in the US.
Yeah, I get access for 1 week when I was in US, and once I'm back to Vancouver, sorry, I cannot no longer access it, which is
Exactly.
good. And also go back to that education topic. Now, yeah, the AI they evolve so fast, and if someone want to be a FDE in 1 or 2 year, and now they are in the school university, what kind of suggestion you will be giving them?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in school right now for computer science and you want to get into AI, you want to get into FTE, I think that, as a whole, we're seeing the entire coding industry change overnight. There's still a lot of people who hold out and refuse to interact with AI based on principle. But honestly, you need to be familiar with these tools. And the most important part is learning how to read code and learning, what makes good code, because you need to ground your work with AI in your real knowledge, your solid knowledge. And it gets tricky, especially nowadays with the advent of ChatGPT. It's human nature to take the path of least resistance. And so it's easy to just be like, hey, build this basic CS program for me. But I would highly recommend one, to learn AI tools, that's an important track to do. But then in your core foundational computer science classes, to do that work yourself and to really get an understanding of the foundations of computer science, because that ultimately will, take you really, really far in the industry, because then um, if an AI is spitting out code that is like really bad or really big security risk, you know exactly why that is, and you can address it right there. I think something that it is a struggle nowadays. It's something I feel very fortunate about. I graduated college in 2022, and so ChatGPT didn't really come onto the scene until 2023. And I'm really, really thankful that it was the way it was, because, I had to learn all of these things by hand. I had to implement all of these programs myself. Um, you know, go on Stack Overflow when I'm facing like a small bug and issue now. But the way that it's evolved, um, I'm super thankful that I have that foundation, because now, when I'm working with AI, when I'm making code with AI, most of my job now feels like I'm spending more time reading code than I am actually writing code. And additionally to that, something I would recommend is really getting, your people skills up and being able to have friendly interactions with, customers. FDE is a really tricky role. Not that it's a discouraging thing, but you have to, know when to say no to a client. You have to manage client expectations, and you also need to be really friendly about this as well. Every client sometimes wants AGI, and you can't promise them AGI. And so it's a really great balance for, learning these things and moving really quickly alongside the customer.
Yeah, exactly. So you're right. It is most of our time as FDE when we need to write code, we don't have to. We don't even need an IDE, right? Even we don't need an editor. Terminal is good enough, right? Because you
Yeah.
just give order to Cloud Code. But you should know what kind of question you should ask it. When they ask the question, which answer you should choose, and how to test it. How to either bring the right context to the Cloud Code, or you can make a judgment call whether this is right or not, right? If even the cloud code always generate the code, you have no idea why this can work. You have no idea what is, for example, what is load balancer, what is deadlock. You have no idea the difference between OLTP database, OLAP database. Then you just see those terms. You have no idea what it is. I mean, why you are in a position to own it? Because in the end, it is the human to take this responsibility. I don't want to
Exactly.
say this, but in some cases, you might be fired as a human, or you might take responsibility. But because AI is not the ultimate entity taking the responsibility, they give you all the options. So there should be someone making the decision that will be human, because you should know whether you should trust the code from the AI. And when they come to a naive solution, when they use a very expensive solution, you should challenge them, give them the direction. Otherwise, some of the AI, their goal is to finish the term. That's all. Or
And
make
to
you
make you
happy.
happy.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So their goal is not really to solve the problem. Their goal is pretend they solve the problem. And you should know what is the right way to solve the problem, even you don't write every single line by yourself. So that's key. That is, everyone should learn, especially you are in the school. You should know those basic concepts. It's okay, you don't write any line by yourself, but you know all the concept behind. And what's the decision tree to choose this one, not the other one. You should know how to review code.
Exactly.
Otherwise, if you just blindly accept everything, it's very dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
And why you, right? Why I can hire the other kids to do this if you two don't give any comment to the code?
Exactly, exactly. You know, as we've seen in some of the people we've talked to about this, some people are very blindly ready to accept AI, and that's, a key red flag, I'd say, in this industry, is that, you need to have a healthy skepticism about AI code, and as you said, you're the ultimate owner of that. Whether the AI wrote it or not doesn't matter if you're the one approving it, and so it's really important to have that core foundational understanding so you understand what it's doing and why. And if it's making it, like you said, an expensive solution, a bad solution, it's really important to understand those architectural trade-offs of what's the optimal solution here. And that's what I spend so much of my time thinking about. And as you were saying, it's it's all about asking specifically, knowing what you want from an AI, to code something and getting that thing, what you want, being ready to push back, being ready to, evaluate. Like I've had many deployments where, I'll basically write a prompt, send it off, look at it, totally wrong. But that informs me of how I need to restructure this prompt. That informs me of how I need to where the AI got that idea from, for instance, and why this is a bad idea, basically.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for sharing all the details. There's always a challenging part of FDE, but also there's a lot of uh, rewarding part of the job, so that you can work very closely with the client. You can know the world in a much closer way. It's not just sit back and work on database or some kind of infra. You know more about how people work in the dental appointment, how people work in banking. I mean, it's not common as an engineer can know so much detail. Sometimes it's quite interesting. And also as FDE, we can work on different domains. If you enjoy understanding the world in a closer way, FDE is an easy way without you switch too much job or companies. You can closely work with them, be part of it, and also contribute to your technology, your AI magic to make things happen.
Exactly, exactly. Something that I feel like, the Cresta's uniquely positioned for that we've noticed is that, we're able to move very, very quickly on these deployments. And something that I really enjoy about the culture here is I have never felt like very honestly, I've never felt like stress from any of my peers, like toxic managers or like PIPs, things like that. I've only, the stress comes from like the problems that you're facing and tackling, but I feel like, I've got the entire team behind me and we're unified on a front to tackle these problems and to position ourselves to really the company's direction for AI is driven by these FDEs, right? We're the ones who interact with these customers every day, understand what their wishes are, what are things that we want to bring back to the platform that we want to support. And it's really awesome when like, I'm telling the customer, let me go talk to our platform team and get back to you. And then we come back to them and we're like, we're going to build this for you. We're going to prioritize this for you. It's a great interaction because they feel like, and we are really personally invested in their success alongside ours.
Yeah, well said. Because that's why people might have some different opinion on FDE. Some people think FDE just a new way to call those solution architect, consultant. But again, at least the way in Cresta, we really value the feedback from FDE, right? I mean, I'm so glad to get the great support from CEO, from all the PM lead and the managers. They even think the current product is designed for FDE. We don't really expect the customer can magically build everything by themselves. It will be one day, but in the near term, it is FDE to making sure we can quickly build something enterprise grade with all the security, with all the performance, business logic, and our platform should be. If it's not, it's okay. FDE may come up with some maybe a quick and dirty solution, but we will read that issue and maybe we come up with some short-term solution, but also making sure we can collect those feedback and implement in a proper way for the product. So it is really big difference because we are part of this product engineering org. Our goal is not just to implement it for you. So actually it's quite different compared to if you're coming from a consulting background or even outsourcing background, because their goal is to just deliver a solution. There's no really a mission for them to spend some time making sure the product getting better because it's charged a different way. So sometimes how the org chart work, how the motivation work can reflect the people's job content. Again, we don't want to ship this org to the customer. For customer, they spend a lot of time with FD. They don't have to spend so much time with the platform engineers. And even in many cases, they don't really need to take a look at the prompt or the test cases. They just pick up a phone call and pretending they are a patient and go over the process. This is good. I know I'm talking to a robot, but this robot is a very good robot.
I remember for one of my first deployments, I was doing some manual testing and I just went on a walk with my dog for like 3 hours and called my AI agent and, tested it out, making sure everything's sounding good, testing those really unique scenarios as well. And that's something else that's really important about AI is not just the automated testing, because you can't just rely on automated testing and say, okay, it's good to go. It passed all of our tests. Looks like it's good to go. There's so many problems that surface through manual testing as well. And we're uniquely positioned to support both of those. In our deployments, we're manually testing all the time, but we're also automatedly testing. And manual testing, the nice thing is as we manually test, we surface issues that we can add to our automated tests. And then we can test for those in an automated way, but it's from a real interaction and from a real issue that we know, our AI agent might have run into. So we can ensure that we're always building and adding on to these tests, but they're surfaced from those human interactions, from those human insights as well.
Yeah, that's the reason why sometimes I compare us with, for example, Tesla, right? I know it's not that fair, but in some degree that is when we really take those real world conversation for this particular customer, every time they complain, this is not very smooth conversation. It's a little bit too fixed, too robotic. Those issues become opportunity for us to improve. And we turn that into test cases, and we change the prompt, making sure there's no regression. And the more issue we can hit, it will be better and more perfect. Right, so it's just like there's a lot of car on the road from Tesla, and I mean we don't just have some digital twin or simulation. We have that for sure, but because we have a strong trust with our customer, and they just like have 5%, 10%, 20% of the volume using the AI agent, and we figure out some issues, refine it, and iterate, increase the volume. So this is very healthy, and again, technology, data, distribution is very rare for us to have all those elements together to create a very ready enterprise AI. Yeah.
Exactly. Something that I think is really important to highlight about the FDE role is that it's, unique. It's different from like your standard software engineering role where you're allowed to stealing this from a Palantir interview, but you're allowed to be a craftsman, and you can take like 6 months and work on something by yourself, and then you release it to customers, and then you kind of take it from there. This role is really about moving quickly, making those interactions with customers and iterating, being deeply embedded with the customer's workflow and iterating on things actively with the customer, creating these bespoke solutions. And as AI kind of demands, everyone has a slightly different use case and need for AI. And that's why FDEs are so important, because we need to craft our platform to support all of these unique needs, support these specific needs. But something that I'm really interested in an effort to, push our platform towards more self-service is not actually what's reusable in AI agents. That's very important, and I'm all for making reusable aspects, but the things that are more interesting actually are what is specific about an AI agent. What do we need to ask the customer for? What do we need to talk about and iterate with the customer on? Because that informs us about what features, you know, what knowledge and insights that are important to the customer that we need to ask them. We can build an AI agent as much as possible to support a customer workflow, but ultimately they're the ones that are the expert at their space. They're the ones that are the experts that are in, you know handling calls every single day, managing all their call centers, and so they know their patient population well. And it's a marrying of their understanding of their patient population, they're providing the specific guidance, and our expertise with AI.
Yeah, yeah. And also you mentioned the term bespoke. I guess nowadays it's not necessary to be a bad thing, right? So if we can create case by case solution, if we can create bespoke solution for this particular customer using AI, it feels like one of the engineer or one of the employee from that company. I mean, so we don't aiming to have this like 20% of the technology cover 80% of the population. That's for the SaaS area, right? Now for the AI, we get a chance to build a very bespoke solution in
Hmm.
a scalable way. I guess that's essentially what FDE is doing right now. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's where that specific aspect comes in. Is how can we make these bespoke solutions for our customers, and that has such a positive iteration loop as well, where we're designing bespoke solutions and our customers are really noticing how much care and thought and effort that we put into their solutions to really make them adaptable to their use case. We're not just handing them the keys to the platform and being like, hey, good luck making this AI agent. It's all about that close interaction with our best practices and their experience.
Cool. Yeah, I think this bespoke can be one of the keyword in the title for this episode. Again, thanks so much. And I guess this is probably is our longest one-on-one sessions. Again, this is more like you enjoy this public episode, and we will invite more FDE members from our team join the show. And if you are also work as FDE in different company, different domain, even by yourself, feel free to DM me on LinkedIn or in this YouTube channel. We will invite people from different background, no matter is FD engineer or the manager, or if you are VC, or I mean, if you are customer, even have a lot of opinion, hate or like regarding FD. Let us know. This is really a platform for us to share more about FD. It may not be a golden solution for everyone, but at least it works very well for Cresta. So that's the reason why we are hiring the other like 20, 40 different FD in different places. But again, you can see my LinkedIn post regarding the positions, but we don't really want to sell anything. So it's more about sharing you more data points or sharing some context in the current term. So here's the context. It's up to you whether you want to believe or not. But the
A-
more context you have, you a higher chance you can make a good decision.
And I have to say, like, a huge shout out to the whole FDE team and forward deployed product manager team as well. Everyone is a pleasure to work with, and some of the nicest and also best engineers I've ever had the pleasure of working with. As I've said, everyone's super concerned about making everything successful. When there's some use case, some vertical that I know another FTE has had experience with, everyone's so excited to help out, to lend their expertise, and for all of us to grow together. And so, really pleasure being on this team, and Yeah. Thank you so much for your leadership, Job, also.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I guess my view for this kind of role is you guys are like football or soccer superstar. You guys are very capable. Me more like a football manager. I don't have
Mhm.
to go to the field. I've been there before, but I more enjoy like coordination, bring the right people in, and arrange everything together to making sure you don't really burn out, but also we can achieve a lot together. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly.
Thanks so much. And subscribe, and we will have more show like this. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.